Welcome, everybody. This is Harrison Klein, your host for Extraordinary Women. I love to do that because it's a heaven-sent thing for me to be around beautiful, extraordinary women. So I'm in the process of doing some great interviews with some beautiful, phenomenal, powerful, extraordinary women. Let me go down the list here because I always introduce the band after the first song. So the band is Mariko in the left-hand corner. If you guys are seeing this in the same order I am, Mariko Fujimura. Mariko is in California by way of, she was born in Japan.
Vancouver, actually. Vancouver, British Columbia.
You're in Vancouver? I didn't know that. Okay, Vancouver. And then Suzanne is in Vancouver too as well. And Doria is in
Vancouver representing. Woo!
Yes, Suzanne, can you up your volume?
Can I up my volume? I don't know. Is it
a little
low?
Bit better.
Is
it's a little low. It's a little low.
Huh,
Doria, how about you? And then that's Doria Cordova.
I am in San Diego, so we have a home here and also on Maui, but right now we are in San Diego.
Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about some really fun things today. We're going to talk about happiness because these are some incredible women who have been through a lot of different things. Mariko has the Kiseki Institute. Is it called Kiseki Institute?
Yes.
Kiseki Institute of Manifestation. Suzanne is with Warrior Sage. And Doria is Money and You. I've taken Money and You multiple times. She's a great manifester of things. She's also, Doria at one point also mentored both Tony Robbins and Robert Kiyosaki and a host of other really top name people in the world. Suzanne is incredibly powerful. I mean, every time I hear her speak, it's like, whoa, 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 you know? And I've been to her house and good friends with her husband and a partner in a smaller enterprise there. Mariko is somebody I met back in Las Vegas, probably about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago or something like that. And very impressed. Oh, actually, she was introduced by Laura.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
I forgot what Laura's last name is, but whatever. She's introduced by Laura, and we've had a good relationship ever since. And so I know her value and her strength. So I want to start out by just asking people about happiness, and I'll go around Robin. I'll say, what is happiness to each of you? So why don't you start us off, Mariko?
You know, I think happiness, well, when I grew up until about 8, 9 in Japan. And in Japanese culture, happiness comes from our personal success. When you succeed, then you can be happy. And I quickly learned that that's not the case, right? Because if our happiness is dependent on our success, and if things don't go out or turn out the way that we had planned it, then that happiness is conditional. But I feel like the true happiness comes from within, that we are naturally happy. We don't have to learn to be happy. When we're born as babies, you know, there is that natural happiness. So I think that the trick is for us to remain that, to stay in that bliss, to stay in that joy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, Suzanne?
I just love that. So that makes me happy.
Okay.
Happiness. Oh, okay. So happiness for me, really, and it might sound, I don't know how it's going to sound, but I'll tell you this. Happiness for me, when I'm witness to the happiness of others, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. It's because what I've come to understand over time, you know, is that really and truly, and this is an understanding that's strange because I really should know this just like that, is that we are all one. We are one that just show up as different faces. And so when someone else is happy and I can feel the happiness within them, then it sets that off in me that I can't control. So then it's both of us are happy. And then when more come along, we're all happy, and we just ignite each other. Like Mariko was saying about the igniting, she ignited me, and now I'm ignited. So I can't wait for everyone else.
It's contagious. It's
Yes,
absolutely
it really is.
Okay, and it transfers from one to another. Doria, how about you?
For me, happiness is actually a byproduct, what we call a precessional effect, the ripple effects of several things. One of them is gratitude. The other one is feeling healthy and just feeling when I go with the flow. So when I was much younger, there were certain things, of course, that would temporarily make me happy. There was no question about it. And there were certain circumstances that would make me really happy temporarily. So if we're talking about happiness that's either temporary, or we're talking about, for me, true happiness is a state of being when we are feeling peaceful, we're feeling grateful. And then when big things occur, like a pandemic, then we have to go back to center. And even though we may be feeling a little sad for others, there is still that peace there that then shows up and bubbles up into happy moments.
Yeah, I'm happy just being with three women, three beautiful women.
That's right.
That makes me happy. So what is the value of happiness to life? What is it to success to life? I mean, talk about what value happiness gives to our lives that's, different than what other people normally experience as life. What is the indigenous feeling of happiness that creates value for you, or what is the value of it?
So do you want Mariko to go?
No, it doesn't matter. Go ahead. You go ahead, Doria.
Well, so for me, it's actually, I have an opposite experience, which I think we give too much value to happiness. I think that, for instance, we have been doing programs for so long. I have been with tens of thousands of people. And when somebody's really unhappy, what I recommend to them that they go be of service, that they go do something. And a lot of times for me is comparing myself to other situations. So I think the reason I experience so much happiness now is because of all this sadness that I had when I was very young. And so, when somebody will say to me, look, if you don't convert, you are going to go to hell when you die. And I usually say to them, well, actually, I was already in hell on planet Earth from the time I was 18 until I was 26. From the time my beloved died, my babies died, my 13 other friends, another baby died. And then I had an enlightenment experience. And then all of a sudden I realized that I actually had disconnected so deeply, so deeply. And I had been going for happiness. And then literally my team knows when they're all like panicking, I always say, did somebody die? And they go, no. I go, great. We can find a solution to this. So for me, my GPS has been to be so joyous on a daily basis when we are just, my family is okay and my beloved, and we're just cruising, but not things that take me out like money or circumstances that I can change. But so for me, happiness is when my ego or something in my consciousness takes me out of my heart. I go and be of service. And it's very powerful for me to be reminded that I am so blessed. I am so blessed. And we, in this family, we have a saying, we have no problems. We have no problems when we see the type of problems. So for me, it's comparison. So happiness is getting that I truly have so much.
So you get the feeling of this abundance, and that abundance is a life experience as opposed to an individual event.
Yes, and actually, I would say sufficiency, because remember, between abundance and between scarcity is this thing called sufficiency. So I have a mother who taught me sufficiency so young, and to this day, she is 95 in a week. She is so beautifully, her experience of sufficiency is absolutely admirable. She reminds me of a guru, and she's not, and she's very real and has her moments, but her experience of sufficiency, and I'm so blessed that I was taught that. So even if I don't have abundance of something, when I experience sufficiency, I have extreme joy. And then
Sufficiency
that converts
being
to happiness.
sufficiency being the experience of enough. Is that
Yeah,
what you're saying? Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
And
Cool.
enough is a cold shower in the morning. This morning,
That's
just
not
that
sufficient
water.
to make me happy.
Oh my God, I love the showers every morning. I am so thankful for water. I'm thankful for the hot water, the cold water, the soap. And I mean,
Preach.
I have a blissful experience in the shower every morning because there's so
Well,
many people that don't have water.
I do until it gets cold for me. Okay, Suzanne?
Oh, like, okay, I love just riffing off of all of you, you know, this, I had something else, but I just want to point out the hot shower morning is a moment of blessing, really. I just, you know, you get in there and you just thought life is worth living. I have a hot shower right now. I can move on. Anyway, that's on an aside. For me, you know, how I access happiness and how I really feel that happiness is accessed is really knowing what is your deepest purpose. What are you here for? What is it that wakes you up in the morning? What is it that makes you feel like life is worth living? And for me, you know, some may know what, some of you who are watching may know what your purpose is. And that's great. And that's awesome. Go for that. Some of you may not know what your purpose is. And what I tell my clients is that your purpose will be found when you go inside, you take those moments of quiet, go inside and carve out time for yourself when you can be silent and listen to the sound of your voice. Listen to the sound of your voice in your quiet. And if you can't hear it in your quiet, then that means that you must move your body. So maybe you're of the kind that needs to move so that your brain that doesn't have access to rhythm can go to sleep. And your soul, which is eternal, which is always awake, can start to move and start to speak to you and show you what you're here for. Because if you really listen, you'll start to hear. And for me, I allowed myself to do these practices, come into quiet, and then start to move my body. And I was awakened to the truth of who I am and why I'm here. And why that is love. It is to love fully without any barrier to that. Without any barrier whatsoever. And I know fundamentally, I know with every part of my being, I'm also getting goosebumps as I speak this, is that I know that I'm here to love because when I am in that place of love, when I am loving, when I'm doing the action of love, connecting, feeling no separation, that we are all one human family, that each one of us is a brother, a sister, a mother, a daughter, a child. They're all mine. You're all mine. You're all part of my family. Then I am even beyond happy. I'm in bliss. I'm in ecstasy. And that ecstasy is infectious. And that's what I love to spread.
So when you go from not knowing your purpose to hitting your purpose and discovering your purpose,
Yeah.
does that create a special sensation for you that you would call happiness?
It is an all-bodied experience of pure bliss. And it is a place from which I feel like I'm being gifted every single day. I feel like I'm blessed every single day,
But
whether I'm by myself or with others. Say that again.
Is it of the senses or is it of the senses?
Every sense is alive. Every sense is alive in every sense.
Okay, cool. Mariko, how about you? The value of.
Oh my gosh, can I just say, I'm getting like, when Doria sharing, Suzanne sharing, I'm just getting all these goosebumps and like chills all over
I
my
might have to get a
body.
blanket for my goosebumps.
So like when I was listening to Doria about just in being of service, of being in giving, and it's all matter of perspective, and living in purpose, being in alignment with that. But what I also want to add is this: when I'm really happy, I'm connected to Source, and when every morning I get up and I have conversation with God, and to be who I really am, to do what I came here to do, and show people, to show everybody, to be in alignment with who they are, to wake them up. That really brings me happiness, Harrison.
Give me some example of what your morning conversation with God is.
So the morning conversation, every morning is a little different, of course, right? But I quiet, like Suzanne said, quieting your mind, being connecting to the source, to pray, coming from a place of pray, to be of service.
Okay.
Be able to touch.
So let me ask you.
One person or 100 or 1,000, doesn't really matter. Where I'm called to touch those lives. Yeah.
So
Yes.
let me ask about that. So of service, now, if happiness is indigenous, are there rituals that create that happiness for you?
I'm not sure if it's a ritual. I don't think you necessarily need a ritual to be happy, but it's a tool you can use to tap into that, to really coming from a place of connection to the source. And that only, in my mind, happens when you truly silence your mind and hear the messages. Because if your monkey mind is busy, yapping away, how can we really listen to that inner voice that is beckoning us to take action forward?
Okay. Ritual, either one of you, Doria, any rituals that you use
Well,
to help get you
for
in a state?
me, my whole life changed almost 11 years ago when I began to meditate twice a day. Now, I had done
Transcendental?
transcendental meditation back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And I didn't stay with it because I didn't understand that it's not about quieting the mind, because it kept being so loud, and it felt like the deeper I was going, the louder it was getting at that time. So I dropped it. I said, oh, this is not working, without realizing that it is a process. So it took me about a year to finally, because the monkey mind that Mariko was talking about, it just got louder and louder and louder. It was just so loud. And so then, but after a year of meditating twice a day, just completely trusting the process, then one day I went to meditate and there was this wall. It was like this, I went so deep, and I can get into that state in 30 seconds. So when I'm in the middle of chaos, if there's something that is happening that is really horrendous, like when I was in the hospital with my best friend's husband who was dying, there would be times when we were in the ICU, and there would be death, and there would be people grieving, and there would be all of this. And then I would just I would just sit there and just tap in and go so deep, and then just begin to just get myself back so that I wouldn't buy, because I was being activated through all the loss that I had had. And it was so deep. It was in the core of my unconscious. So being in the ICU will bring it up for you. And so I began to see that the tools that I know that Suzanne and Mariko are talking about are for the hard times. See, generalized principles, all the principles that we all teach and that come from our ancestors, my being Chilean, I'm 46% what they call, I can't remember, but they call me something like American Native or something. Well, I'm actually from South America. I'm an 8th Chinese, and I come from another lineage, but the little company didn't have a slot for Chileans, and for Polynesians in there. And so one of the things that we have learned is that when we really tap, it's in my DNA, it's in my blood for me to tap into my heart and go into nature. So I remember one time in the ICU, it's interesting, the waiting rooms in the ICU, at least in San Diego, are gorgeous. And so there was this beautiful tree, and there was this nature, and there was this grieving families. ICU waiting rooms are very intense. And I just kind of went and I looked at that tree, and I just decided to go stand by there and took some breath and just realized this too shall pass, this too shall pass. So generalized principles are for when we are having horrible moments. It's so easy. We have stuff happening and we accomplish this, and the more, like, people say, oh, you must be so happy that you're so successful. And it's like, yes, but I'm not this happy because I'm this successful. I think that I am this happy because I work it. It is a daily discipline. And at any moment, I can be hijacked by something that will occur. Like, when I first watched that video, I said, why is everybody so upset? And then I watched it for 30 seconds, that policeman with the knee on the neck. It was so horrifying. Oh my God, it was like, we're watching this, we're watching somebody die, no wonder. And then I went, okay, let's take a deep breath, And then it was like, I have an understanding of why people are so enraged and upset and all of this. And then at the same time, what can I do? And then I just went deeper into all my to-dos to comfort and to be with people as closely as I can. But moment to moment, what happiness really is having that total realization within your heart that you can get yourself out of that horrendousness that sometimes will happen in life. And so I feel safe within myself. I have my Ho'oponopono, my inner family. I'm a Ho'oponopono practitioner. So my inner father, the Amakua, the Uhane, the inner mother, and then the Unihipili, the inner child, is completely aligned. They get all scattered, and then I bring them back with just the breath, and then 30 seconds, and then we're back. And then our strength comes back. And then later that day or a year later, I'll go, oh, I'm so happy with myself. I really handled that beautifully. But it is this discipline, and it's moment to moment.
You mentioned a number of things here that I want to touch on, Doria. One is the fact that you mentioned the idea of safety. Now, is safety connected to happiness?
For me, yes. Because I felt so unsafe. I went from all my friends dying into the court system. I became an official court reporter in the LA criminal court systems.
Yeah, we're going to talk about everybody's background here a little bit, but yeah, I know what we've all been through. Yeah, so
I felt so unsafe. And it was that took me to Hawaii. And then I had my enlightenment experience by being surrounded by beauty. And I want to let other people speak, but for me, safety is key.
And beauty is a big part of that, in my belief. But we'll talk further about that in a moment. But the other thing you brought about was the idea of heart with happiness, because, it's really, I want to ask the question, how much of happiness is mind and how much of it is heart? Because that's a really important question, I think. So, Suzanne, how about you?
How much of happiness is mind and how much is heart? Well, it's probably both. Mind and heart is where happiness arises from. I feel that happiness is it can be a state of mind and a state of body. I was going to say that for me, as a Jamaican-born Canadian, though, I remember going back, and Bob Marley is someone that that has just crossed all cultures. You know, you just hear his name and you just listen to the music, and it puts everyone in a sense of real happiness. And one of the words in his songs is, one thing about music, when it hits, you feel no pain, you know? And what that
Music
means,
transcends, yes, it transcends.
exactly. So that is the thing. It's that for me, music has been, in my culture, from where I'm from, music is the rhythm of life. Music is what brings us into the happiness that was original, because music is the heartbeat. And that's the first thing that we hear when we are in the womb, is the beat of your mother's heartbeat. And so when the music hits, you feel no pain. That is what I have been brought up with. That's what I started with. That's what I continue with. That's what brings me to the place of groundedness, awareness, bliss, and my mind, again, actually can't keep up. So if my mind is there saying no, 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 but my body says something else, and the music is playing, then it's all good, you know. And so it's like, let's come back to the original beat, the original heartbeat of all of us, which is the humanity's heartbeat. And let's tune in. Let's be the frequency that awakens the heartbeat of us all, so that we can open that up and we can have no more pain.
You know, Paul Simon did a song called The Roots of Rhythm, and it was basically from South Africa music, South African music, and it's a very, very beautiful song. These are the roots of rhythm, and the roots of rhythm remain. And there's a lot of beautiful stuff having to do with music. I'm a musician myself, so, you know, I understand the transcendence, because you're not in any state of mind that is environmental when you're in music. You are simply in the cosmic, or whatever that happens to be, that state. And there's a tremendous amount of beauty in the fact that you are lost, that you are no one in this unknown space, but you are moving, you are experiencing. So, you know, there's a great deal to that. Now, there is a portion, I believe, of, you know, happiness that has to do with the mind. We sometimes have to start with the mind to get into some of the spaces that are in our hearts, because a lot of people have historical experiences of negativity with their families, with other people, with toxic environments and things like that. And I'm not sure that they easily access what we've been talking about, that they easily access that space inside of them that is, you know, available for that particular kind of truth. So the thing is that, you know, can the mind start a ritualistic situation that takes us into that space?
Yes,
Yeah.
they
Okay.
can. I assert that, you know, there is a masculine part of us, and there is a feminine part of all of us. And so the masculine mind is one that is going for freedom. And the mind wants to get out of it. Yes, right? So there's some of us that are more freedom going for that. And more of us, right? So there's a masculine and feminine in all of us, right? And then there's a feminine part to all of us that's going for the flow of love. That the flow of love is there. Yeah, so we have that in all of us. If you are more on the masculine side, wanting to go for freedom, then your mind is about how do I rest this mind so that I can go for that freedom. Well, it's about finding what will allow the mind to have a rest for a while. And what that is removing any distractions from the space. So solitude, being in quietude will allow the mind to slow down. And that's where meditation is so fantastic, because it allows you to focus on just one thing alone. And that will bring you to that focus and to cool your mind down. For those of us who are more feminine, and the flow of love is what, whether the flow of love is there or not, gets us in our mind. It's like, oh, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Are we afraid? Are we not afraid? It just gets us in our mind. The best place for those of us who are more feminine to get out of the mind is into the body. And how do you get into your body? You access all of your senses. So whether it's as simple as taking a walk outside and tuning in to nature, because nature is so feminine that you get tuned into that. And it's like, oh, all of a sudden I'm out of here and now I'm into the beauty of nature. Or it could be this as simple as go have a nice shower. A nice hot shower, right, Mariko? Yeah, let's go for a nice hot shower. Feel the warmth on your body. Suddenly your mind melts. Now you're in your body and now you start to access the wisdom that's within your body. Because we're all smart. We all got minds. We can do things, but sometimes it's wisdom that we need. And the body rituals, may I say, is that the body rituals is what can get you in your body, what can relax you, release you from the tension of the grip of the mind. And that's how we do it.
So knowing how to get to that inner space has to do with the mind, but getting to the inner space is the wave. So the wave as opposed to the particle. Yeah.
There you go.
Mariko, what about you?
Yeah, I love that, Suzanne.
I'm loving this, guys.
Hot shower, bring it on. And the other day, like middle of the day, I kid you not, I was having an extremely busy day and I quieted the mind and it said, go take a bubble bath. And bubble bath right now? Really? I have a long list of things to be accomplishing today, but I was wise enough and able to do that. And it's just, it really helped me pivot, which was great. Yeah, wonderful. Just to add on to Suzanne, you know, I believe we say happy, 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 happy. But oftentimes for most people, that's very hard to do, to tap into that frequency of love and abundance and prosperity, because that monkey mind is going. And oftentimes we're programmed. Our software is programmed to see the negative instead of the positive. It's not that, you know, things aren't, you know, happy people are in their life, just only good things are happening. It's not true, right? We all have different challenges and turbulence, you know, during our lifetime that we experience, but how we see from different lenses. We have the potential, all of us, to see the good in every situation. Because look, in every situation, even we win the lottery, as my mentor Bob Proctor likes to say, is that there is bad too. So there's always good and bad in every situation. Yeah, so I say first, maybe become aware of what's going on in the mind and the source where you picked up the beliefs from, because oftentimes our thoughts originate from the beliefs that we hold, and then say, is this true? Is this the belief? Is this a thought that I like to have? No. How would I like to change it? What's the complete opposite of how I want to feel? And then start the dialogue from there.
But you have to be aware enough to monitor your thoughts in order to do that.
Yeah.
And that is something that not everybody is not everybody does, you know, continuously. But let's talk about this, because I really like where we're going, but I want to just kind of revert to a couple things, because each of you have mentioned your origins, you know, and I know that there are different values connected to happiness from different cultures, like a different culture, different value for the Chileans, for the Jamaicans, for the Japanese, and they all have values that they promote around happiness, societally and then non-societally. So why don't we kind of go there for a second? How much effect or how much affect does the societal view of, what is the societal view of happiness? You already mentioned that, Mariko, from Japan. You said it had to do with success, but how about from Chile and from Jamaica, Gloria?
And for us is community. I grew up in Santiago in the 50s, and it was community. The New Year's party that we started at midnight. When the bell, for New Year's, for
Yeah.
1 or 5 minutes, we would all cry for all the people that had left us that year. It was just a thing we did. We would cry for the mechanic. We cried for my little boyfriend that died when I was 6. He was 11. And then we cried for 5 minutes. That year we cried a little longer because he was so young and we were all so sad. And then we went and we would close down the street and have these dances until the sun, sight, until the sunrise. And so what happened for us, it was community. The way that babysitters were like, who's going to take care of Doricita tonight? And literally another neighbor would yell, I will. And you knew you were going to be over there because the grown-ups were going somewhere. That was babysitting arrangements where I grew up. So community. And so when we came to the United States when I was 12, I remember the most saddest thing for us was the quietness of the streets, how there were hardly any children playing. And the neighbors didn't know each other. And it really affected my mother. To this day, she has never gotten over that. And this whole pandemic thing put her over. That's another story. So for us, it's community, it's a neighborhood, and the dancing, like literally a little bit like in Cuba. When I went to Cuba, I remember people just stopping and dancing everywhere. Oh, Suzanne, you would love Cuba. And it would be like in Chile, you would have these teenagers, there would be loud music, and they would just dance. And it was just like, everywhere you go, there's dancing. It reminds me of the Philippines. The Philippines, one of the most beautiful things in the little tiniest restaurants, there would be music, live music. There's live music everywhere in the Philippines.
All kinds of places, yeah.
So what you have is you have this community and knowing that everyone was going to be there for you. So there was, again, we go back to safety. and simple foods, and somebody would get some, I don't know, somebody sent, like my ancestors, my uncles and aunts, they were deep sea divers, and this huge box would come once a year with all this seafood, and it was impossible for us to eat it. And we didn't have refrigerators, we had ice boxes. And so of course we would share. So everybody would get so happy because everybody got some seafood. And then we were just happy with just one meal. We didn't have to have seafood every night that week. But all the neighbors got the seafood as much as we could. And then if one neighbor didn't get it, they understood completely that it just wasn't enough. And next time, and next time you did remember to give it to them the next year. And it was this balance of connectedness and of knowing. And when somebody had a death or somebody needed money, I mean, you talk about community. It's like you knew you were not going to starve. You knew, and I don't know if you know this, it changed, but in Los Angeles, the stats of Latinos, homeless Latinos, was so low for the longest time, and then it changed. It changed. But Latinos, you can have 50 people sleeping in a room. You would never let your relatives living on the street. That's even if you hate their guts, they get to sleep somewhere in your home. And that is a very Latino, Polynesian thing that a lot of people are not aware of.
Good point.
Anyway.
Suzanne, I know you're an advocate of indigenous stuff all over the world. So you do a lot of that kind of advocacy all over the place. So tell me about the Jamaican value around all that. You grew up in Jamaica, right?
I did. Well,
Partially.
okay. So, and the Jamaican is going to come out of me now. All right. Because it does when we start talking about
you want some ganja?
and just drop right in, drop right in. So, so the thing is that Jamaica's actual national, our national saying is out of many one people. Out of many one people. So what that means is unity for us is paramount. And when we go to, if you go to Jamaica, you will see people of different, different nationalities that have their forefathers came from somewhere else, but they are Jamaican. So they're Jamaican first, but then they'll be Jamaican Black, Jamaican Chinese, Jamaican German, Jamaican English, Jamaican Irish. I mean, everything. We've got everything there. We've got a literal melting pot. And the thing is that when you go to Jamaica, you know, I was in Jamaica a couple of years ago, and I went to visit my cousin, and there was an Englishman who looked it was white and blonde, and you know, he approached me and he said, so is this the first time you've been to Jamaica? And I was like, oh, because the way he spoke, he sounded more Jamaican than me, and because he was born there. And so the thing is that what I'm coming to say is that the language, the way we speak, it's not a different language, but the accent, the way that we speak, you can tell where we come from. And a Jamaican anywhere in the world, you open up the accent and suddenly there's this warmth, but not only between us, but everyone, you know, there's this feeling of, you know, it's just a really yummy, delicious, the way that we speak. But what I'm trying to say is that how we speak unites us. How we speak unites us, and that we are out of many one people. And so I grew up with that, and I carry that forward. And Doria, I echo what you're saying in the sense of, when I came to Canada, I was shocked that everyone wasn't, you see, where we come from, everyone is an auntie. So you better be careful, because the aunties are going to see you on the street. And if you're up to what you're not supposed to, they're going to be calling your mother, and they're going to be letting her, and they're actually going to physically take you and bring you home. So I grew up with that. And for me, I actually take that into my life. So whatever neighborhood I am in, I become the auntie. And whether they understand it or not, I will take your child off the street if they're not supposed to be there. I will bring them home safely where they're supposed to be. And every child is mine. Yes, I have actually, I'll tell you this real quick. There was a time where there was a tsunami happening somewhere, and it hit me. I said, you know something? Who are we going to be able to turn to if some tragedy happens? And we've got stuff going on right now, right? But back then I was like, we were on a cul-de-sac. There were not, people weren't coming outside. In fact, they were fighting amongst each other. So I walked up to one of the houses of the people that hadn't even met me, knocked on their door, and there was a woman there. She was older than I was. And I actually said to her, I said, listen, my name is Suzanne. I live across the street. If there is anything that you need whatsoever, you can come to me and I will help you with that, because I'm your neighbor. But I understand that you are not getting along with the neighbors across the street. And do you know that there is a possibility at any point in time that we could be having some disaster? Who are you going to call on? You need to call on your neighbor. So I'm telling you right now, you need to make up with them right now. And it just came over me. And she looked at me. And I mean, she could have called the cops, right? This woman's crazy. But she said, well, they are doing this. And I said, I don't even want to hear it. I want you to make up with them right now. Do you understand? We have no time left. Thank you. I love you. I have things to offer you at my house if you need it. Goodbye. And I walked to the next house, knocked on the door, and I said the same thing. And let me tell you, I think we need to do this. We need to take action and no longer wait for things to be the way that we're used to. We create how we want things to be in the world. We be the change we want to see in the world. And so whatever it is that you have that's inside of you, that's from your culture, it is beautiful. You are here. You are a gift. Give that gift and wake others up. Bring them into your family, because we are out of many one people. We are one. And that is my message.
And does culture affect the happiness of people? The culture in itself, does it affect the happiness?
Of course.
The happiness affects the culture. It is from who you are. You affect whatever culture you are in. We are one. we come from different places, we have different experiences, but it is the happiness. And as Mariko says, you know, it's you have to go within. You have to go within and find that happiness. You have to access it, whether it's going to be from silence in meditation, or if it's going to be from movement and finding your senses to melt you into that place. But it is your responsibility to unlock the happiness that is your birthright. And then it is to be the example of that happiness and to awaken others, to remind them to be that frequency of that. And when we can do that through contact, through connection, through whatever the heck it is, that source reminds you that you are that, be that, and don't wait, because who knows how much time we have left. We don't have time left. That's what the world is saying to us right now. You are on a time schedule, and it's time for you to wake up, use what you're brought here with, the gifts, and open each other with that.
Love it. Okay. Mariko, how did your Japanese heritage affect your happiness?
You know, I just loved hearing about, community from Doria and Suzanne. But I personally had a very different experience growing up in Japan. I grew up in a culture where, don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful culture. There's so much to be learned, and I love Japan. But at the same time, where perfection is demanded of each and every single one. So in Japan, it's starting to change, right? So what Suzanne said, like, we gotta be the change. We gotta rise up and be the catalyst, right? To live from inside and out. But at the same time, when you grow up, junior high school, you write the exam to get into junior high school. And dependent on which junior high you get into determines which high school you can get into. And then therefore which university, therefore whether that determines whether you can succeed in terms of corporate and and be able to become a senior management and be able to get that position or not. So for example, if you're not academically talented, well, guess what? You're sort of doomed. You're not giving a second chance to write the exam, right? So you kind of understand the culture, and we're put in sort of a box. And there are a lot of paradigms, cultural paradigms. And so where I, is that you have to, you don't have to, but it's almost like a culture put a pressure on you for success. And success equals happiness. Which university, which company you get into equals happiness. How much money you have equals happiness. Oh, they drive that car, therefore they must be happy.
Yeah, so Japan has a different view of the way that happens. Is there a lot of entrepreneurship in Japan, or
not it's starting to change. Yes, there's a lot of entrepreneurs, but back then there weren't many. Mm-hmm. And
the Money and You program, in our Japanese Money and You program.
Yes, money, yes.
Find out that they're just like everybody else. And they really are. And that cultural, but at the same time, your families, right? They get so happy. You're doing it for all your family, the ones in the past and the one in the front, right? That you have to get all that. You're always representing the whole family. And that's pressure on a human being, right? But,
yes, yeah. And then this is, not to bring the happiness frequency down, but the reason why it's one of the amongst highest suicidal rate. Which country? Japan.
Yeah, so if you don't succeed, that creates unhappiness by nature. So, but indigenously, we have to go inside in order to make our happiness external, or even just functional in the way that we experience ourselves. So let's talk a little bit about that too, because each culture has a particular kind of personality that's with it. and that personality, has a particular external expression. So let's talk about those kinds of expressions, because, I know that the Jamaican culture is quite, open about that easiness, connectivity in that way. And, the Jamaican people I know laugh easily. They have a very kind of robust conversational tone. And they're fun. I know your husband is Indian, and that brings in a whole spiritual aspect to everything as well, which is really, really deeply intertwined in all of what we're talking about here. We'll talk about spirituality and happiness in a second, but so what about the personality of the culture, and what about the personality of the people involved? Does the personality affect the happiness, or does the happiness affect their personality, or is it intertwined? Okay, go ahead, Doria, you're shaking your head.
Well, it's actually intertwined, because one thing that people don't know about Chile is one of the most successful South American nations. And one of them is that because people are capitalists there, and they really are. When the whole thing happened with Allende and this whole socialist thing, even though the CIA instigated, and that was proven by the big hearings that were had on television, they really suppressed. It was one of the worst times in the 20th century for Chile. Basically, the natural way for a Chilean is to be a capitalist. We love to take care of ourselves. We love to have businesses. There is this sense of pride that happens on that, and taking care of yourself. It's not a major pressure, but really taking care of yourself and having a little business or being part of a business is so amazing. Most people don't realize that. And so, but it does affect if people don't have opportunities. When it happened for a few years, when we had that whole takeover of the socialist movement, and then it was so horrendous, then we went way to the other side, and then we became, a fascist country for a few years with Pinochet and all that. So, but that was the only horrendous time. So one of the things that we have learned is that freedom. It's like my number one value is freedom. In every level, it has driven me. And so Chileans are very happy with personal freedom, with the ability to be able to do what they choose. Now, I think every human being wants that, but I have found that not necessarily to be true. I mean, I've been for 20 years in China, so I'm very clear about not everybody was raised that way or have the environment. So for us, it's freedom, personal freedom, freedom in business, and way back in the younger days, back in the 50s, was also freedom of having different relationships. That's a whole other story. But
I know your story there, girl.
Well, no. I mean, I used to be so upset with my father having so many children with so many different women. And one time my mother looks at me, she says, "Why do you get so upset?" I'm not that upset. That's how it was at the time. In the 40s and 50s, that's what men did. And you're so upset about it. And I go, "Well, I think I am upset because you suppressed your upset and I picked it up." And she started laughing. She says, "You don't understand." She says, "We did other things. It wasn't the way that it is now. I wish you could step back to what it was being an adult in the 40s and 50s when I was an adult." So she says, "So just relax a little bit." And I said, "So you're not upset?" She goes, "No, I'm not upset. It's over." And all of a sudden I felt this happiness that Mama was not upset. So why should I be upset? And it was culture. It was culture. And I was projecting my beliefs and the way that we were being in the 80s and 90s on my mother's and my father's relationship in the 50s and the 40s.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because you brought up something here that also we're going to talk about in just a moment, but we're going to talk about sex and happiness as well. And I know that Suzanne is an expert in that because she teaches that directly. But let's talk about the fact that, when we are able to come to a agreement that it's okay, that things are okay outside of us, whether or not, we are indigenously kind of driven toward a particular value or idea. When we can come to the fact that, whatever is upsetting us is okay? Does that help, that relaxation, that relief from that situation, does that contribute dramatically to our happiness? You guys,
Yeah. Go ahead,
let's
Suzanne.
jump in.
Well,
Because
I was going to say that that in Jamaica, one of our values is, and it's big, it's being able to express yourself fully and completely. And what that means is, I mean, I come from a family where I have an uncle, a cousin, who was musically inclined, and he became famous in Jamaica as a singer. And he's still a singer, now, and he moved to Florida and he still sings and he expresses himself fully. My father was a politician in Jamaica at the time, and so he expressed himself fully. And his brother is still on the radio expressing himself fully and saying what is true for him. And the women in my family, and typically the Jamaican woman, is not one to hold back how she feels. And she's very strong in herself. She knows herself. And because she
are very
knows,
vocal, yeah.
because she knows who she is, there is no doubt when she says what she feels that it is expressed in a way that others will hear. I have aunties who are into politics right now, and one, a few of them, I can't even say one, because if I say one, I'm not saying the other, and they're all very strong. And I remember one of my aunties, when I was young, I ran out of the house. She came over to visit, and she was cooking with my mom. And she was one in politics actually too, but anyway, that's on an aside. So I ran out of the house and I ran to play, and she said, "Suzanne, come back here right now." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I came in, she marched me up the stairs and she took out the brush and she started combing my hair. I had run out of the house without combing my hair. And she said to me, as she's combing my hair, "Do you think your mother would leave the house like that?" And I was like, "Ah." She said, "You comb your hair right now." And it wasn't even just about the hair, which it was, but there was something deeper. She said, "If you do not take care of yourself, who is going to take care of you? Your mother would not be like that. I would not be like that. Hold yourself high. Make sure before you leave your home, you are presentable. You are presenting yourself who you want to be addressed. You dress and you behave the way that you want to be addressed." And so it's like this. We have a culture where we contact, but we're very expressive and very true and very family oriented. And so happiness comes from, again, going inside and remembering who you are, and expect to be addressed. If you remember who you are and you stand in that, and you are grounded from that place. So do whatever you can to make sure that you remember you are amazing, you are incredible, you are here for a reason. Dress for success, whatever way that is, but show up fully. And that's what we're about in Jamaica. And now in Canada and in the world, because we are one family. So the reminder is show up and dress, meaning arrive ready to express yourself fully. And in expressing yourself fully, you are not separate from the source of who you are. And when you are no longer separate from the source of who you are, that is your true happiness. That is your birthright. And that is what you're here for.
I always comb my hair before I leave the house. All right, Mariko, now let's talk about something else too, because, we're talking about really, we're kind of revolving around these spiritual experiences and spiritual expression. So let's talk a little bit about, spirituality and happiness. Is spiritual, Mariko, is that a big part of the happiness equation? Or can we be happy even if we're non-spiritual?
I believe we can be happy without being spiritual. Truly believe being happy is our birthright. We are truly happy from the day one when we come here. We become programmed to not be happy. But the core center of who we are is the joy, the bliss, the light, the happiness. So we don't have to, as I said, I think in the beginning of the call, we don't have to do anything to be happy. That is our nature, but we forget through our programming of how we've grown up or what events we experience through our own lens. We're choosing basically not being happy. So I don't believe you have to be spiritual to be happy. But that connection, the bond, through the connection through oneness, the source, the love, also absolutely can bring happiness.
Right. So Donovan had a song, and it was called Happiness Runs. And it's a song that goes, happiness runs in a circular motion. You can be happy if you just want to. Like a little bird up in a tree, singing and flying and feeling so free. Happiness runs in a circular motion. Everybody is a part of everything anyway. You can be happy if you let yourself be. So it's just about.
You should have sang it. You should have sang it, Harrison.
Yes, you should have.
You can be happy if you just want to. Tra la 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 tra la 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 la. There's several verses.
But I just want to add one thing. For me, the spiritual connection to the oneness, that devotional connection, that is number one for me. Without that, there is, it will be hard for me. Like that's the true happiness I feel when I'm connected.
When I had my original awakening the first time, the first big awakening that I ever had, I came out of a really, really dark place. I was autistic. I was in hell for 23 years. Just the suicidal many times over and all kinds of very negative things. But when I had my awakening, I instantly connected to a sudden enlightenment, if you want to call it that. It's called a satori in Japanese. But I had a sudden enlightenment. And from that point on, I never had, the unhappiness that I had for all the 23 years, the accumulation of those 23 years of unhappiness. So that triggered a place in me that was wide open for the first time in my life. During that period, I never saw anybody that was happy. I didn't have any examples. So probably that was because the world is a reflection of us. And if you're not happy, you don't see a happy world. So, but when that happened, my happiness expanded in a dramatic, explosive way, and, has never left me since. And so, we want to talk about the fact that that was a spiritual awakening, and that spirituality is what brought me the happiness. It was the connection that I felt for the first time with feeling that oneness that we're all talking about, that community, that circumstance, that situation whereby we touch the masks of source as us continuously. So, we're in that space, and, I'm really, happy to be here, everything. So, and the other thing that it did, and I wanted to discuss this with you guys too, was that it was when I had my awakening, I exploded with energy for the first time. Prior to my happiness, prior to my awakening, I wasn't very energetic. I was in a place of deep depression and very lethargy. I didn't want to do anything, stay in bed as much as I could, things like that. But once I had my awakening, my energy was like I jumped onto a moving train, from a standing position. So it was like a whole other experience for me. So what about this energy thing connected to happiness, Gloria?
Well, at first, I just want to say very quickly, wow, that was such a big question. Mariko, one of the most popular books in Japan is Happy Money, right?
Yes, Ken Honda. Yes.
Yeah.
He's a really good friend of mine, and I'm going to have him on a talk in the next couple of weeks. And
Really? Oh my goodness.
yes, he's a good friend. So in Fridays with Dory, I'm going to have him there in, I think, the 27th or something. We'll keep track of that. But anyway, so for me, it's like the Japanese people. It's such a popular book, and he is a best-selling, has so many books in Japan, and he is a happy money guy, and that kind of shows a little bit about, you know, because he's all about gratitude. He's all about all the things that we're talking about. So energy, when we talk about energy, really, it's for me, everything is energy. And by the way, I wanted to tell Suzanne that I had an opportunity to hang out with Bob Marley's son. One time we took a flight and went on the same car and hung out together when he was going to do a really
I employed him at the Millennial Concert in Miami. Ziggy Marley was, you know, I had him play, his entire band play at the Millennial Concert in Miami when the transition happened from 1999 to 2000. So he was our featured band. So that was very, very cool. So,
but I was going to say it's really interesting because we actually got into a conversation about happiness. I got to spend time with him from Honolulu to the Big Island, and then the big ride between the airport and actually Kona, and I mean the Kona surf. And then he invited me, and one of my biggest regrets, I didn't go. He was doing a huge concert, you know, all of the Big Island came over to visit with him. And we actually talked about happiness, and we were talking about energy. And so for me, everything is energy. You know, it just emanates from us, and it just depending on whether the energy is really low. And we actually say we say it, people say it, even people, and I agree with Mariko that that you don't necessarily need to be spiritual. I know a lot of people that are not, but they have made a choice of what it was going to make them happy. And in their minds, once they reach that, they do get happy. Now, they're not willing to really touch upon too many things. And I don't judge them. Whatever it is, and that's part of my happiness, to emanate and to have the energy for us to be able to attract. I mean, I am a total believer. You know, not a believer, my experience is that once you choose something, you know, that you choose something that you want for your life. And more than anything else, after my 8 years of hell on planet Earth, all I wanted was peace. All I wanted was no more death. All I wanted was no more liars. You know, my experience in the court system was so horrendous. I mean, I used to hang out with crooked cops, which, by the way, they all got busted in 1979. Long story. With people that we were deciding people's fate. And while we were drinking, you know, in a Mexican restaurant for lunch, we were having margaritas, trying to decide on people's lives, you know. And I learned so much about the legal system at that time, and about the poverty, and about the rich, and the attorneys, and all this and that. I went there for safety, and I found hell. And so it wasn't until I began to feel the energetics of Maui, of Hawaii, of the Big Island, where I had my enlightenment experience.
Yeah, wow.
And that's why I choose, and I choose the beauty. I think Japan has so much beauty. You are all into this beautiful. Everything is
Very
perfect.
precision. Yeah, Japan.
Yes, and I think that makes the Japanese people happy. I think that. I mean, they look very happy in that respect. And who am I to judge what happiness is for another?
Well, the end of judgment is the beginning of love. But okay.
Yes, and so for me, gratitude, lack of judgment. So it's that energetic. And like right now, I'm so happy to be with all of you. I'm like, I want to wait to start. Remember, it's early for me, you know, and it's like, I just want to really thank all of you, because my heart is feeling so much gratitude, and therefore I'm feeling so happy I could cry that, oh, look at this beautiful people that are out there teaching and passing the word. I can relax a little bit because I'm not alone on my trek to make this place a good place. And so thank you. Thank
We're
you.
all about making the earth a lot happier, because as we become happier, everybody else, the happy people have no need to dominate other people. Happy people have no need to, manipulate. They have no need to hurt, because they're fulfilled within themselves. So it's really an important concept. So let's talk about the energy, Suzanne, and the sexual part of happiness for sexual and energy, because I know you guys teach Tantra a lot. So let's talk about that.
Yes. Sexual energy is our birthright as well. And to deny sexual energy is to deny our breath, is to deny our life itself. And to embrace our sexual energy and to awaken and embrace our sexual energy and to harness our sexual energy for the good of all beings. Imagine that. Okay, so that's what my husband and I go for. That's what we go for. So in our company, Warrior Sage, it is a personal development empowerment company. So what we're about is empowering you to your highest and your best, your most aliveness. And so when we speak about sexual energy, whenever you do something, become truly aware that what you do, how you express, what you awaken will affect everyone, everything. Everywhere you go, it affects that. It's like a ripple. And so when you start to become in touch with the power of the sexual energy that is within you, and you start to unlock that, awaken that, as a celebration, as an offering for all beings, because there are some that don't even know the power of what is possible. When we say orgasm is a state of, it is also a state of consciousness. Orgasm is the celebration of life. From the smallest awareness of, just the slightest touch can cause a ripple. It's an energetic awakening, is an orgasm, to the full-bodied shake of like, I have no mind left, no anything. That is also orgasm. But it's not just one thing. It's not just
Talking about mind-blowing sex now, right?
It's exactly. It is a spectrum of what is possible.
Okay.
It is a spectrum of what is possible. So if you can just tune in to the possibilities of life itself, the possibilities of a seed that is planted, that starts to bud and starts to awaken. Right now, just as you take a breath and imagine the seed of life, the seed of source is already planted from within you. And it's funny, as I speak, it's early morning here, and as I'm saying that, the sun is coming through, and it's like, ooh, something is awakening. And it's not just a happenstance. This is what happens when you become in touch with what is possible, the possibilities, and then allow your body to start to go, oh, there's a possibility here, and then the possibility builds. And be grateful, as Doria says, be grateful, have that gratitude. You start to have the gratitude of a little sprout. What happens is, something else starts to build, and then it gets yummier and yummier and yummier and yummier, and then how? But it's not only just about the big bang. It's about the beginning of it all, awakening, awakening, awakening. And that's the energy that you start to build.
So
That's the energy.
is it an energy of appreciation?
Say that again.
Is it an energy of appreciation?
Absolutely. From the very beginning, from the moment you become aware, you stoke it with appreciation and gratitude, and then it just gets bigger, doesn't it? It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and suddenly it just overtakes. And that's where ecstasy comes in. That's where ecstasy is alive. And it's not to wait until you get to the big place or the small, whatever that is. Don't wait. Your orgasmic potential is now, right now. And in your gratitude, keep grateful. Be in gratitude. And in that gratitude, you will have what you're looking for.
John DeMartini, who's a good friend of mine, said to me, the master lives in a state of inspired transformation. So I love that. I love that saying, and I use it all the time for when I teach people. So the inspired transformation is a place of high energy. It's a place of attempting mastery and continuing to tweak things, because that's what mastery does, which I learned from Doria. And a beautiful thing happens when we come into this higher space of sexual energy, because Napoleon Hill talked about sexual energy being the most potent of our energies. So when we are driven by, as a species, to have this sexual energy portion. And people who are usually both very happy and very successful are very highly sexually driven. So there's a lot to that. There's a lot to that situation. Mariko, what about, what effect does relationship and pleasure have on, this happiness energy? What does relationship have to do with that, with the happiness and energy and expanded energy?
I think it's huge portion, right? Because yes, like relationship. Are you talking about relationship with others or when I think about the relationship, it's not just a relationship with me and my partner or with me and my children. It's relationship with every aspect of our life. Relationship with money, relationship with our health, relationship that we have with oneself, with our own spirituality, right? So relationship, I say, is everything. Relationship with oneself.
Okay. Would you guys agree? Now, here's the difference between a spiritual perspective and a non-spiritual perspective. In a non-spiritual perspective, we perceive ourselves within the world. In a spiritual perspective, we perceive the world as within us. Mm-hmm. And so that is a whole difference of perspective in a gigantic way. And so that means that we're either in relationship to the world. In a non-spiritual experience, we're in relationship to the world. But in a spiritual experience, the world is in relationship to us. And so that is a huge thing. So
yes, what I'm talking about is the relationship that we first have with ourselves through different aspects. So coming from the spiritual aspect.
Yeah.
That brings us happiness.
Okay, cool. So we're kind of running into time, so we're kind of wanting to wind this up now. So what I want to do is do a little quick round robin. One tip from me and from each of you on, one way to expand your happiness or to start your happiness. Either expand or start. Okay, go ahead first, Doria.
So for me, again, right now, it would be to make a list of all the things that you're grateful for. The other one, my new definition of wealth is to have access to, access to expert, access to information, access to cash, access to love, access to support. So one of the things that you can make another list of all how wealthy you really are, of all the access that you have. Like I feel so much wealthier now, having met these beautiful goddesses here. I'm a lot wealthier than I was an hour and a half ago. So now what we
What
want
about
to do,
me?
oh, but you, I was already so rich with you. You are already in the mix. And, but I'm wealthier because of these introductions that you have made. So now for us to be truly wealthy of spirit and of happiness and abundant in all of that is, again, to be very real with yourself and to be grateful for what you have, because all of us and so many of us that are going to be reaching this are so blessed and privileged. I mean, you know, the people that I am working on uplifting humanity's consciousness through socially responsible businesses is to affect the 2 billion people that don't have access to this information, that
Right.
don't have access to people like that, or to even clean water to take a shower, or everything else that we can mention. So gratefulness and access and being able to support so many others that are not as blessed as we are is true happiness for me. Thank you.
Okay, Suzanne, one tip?
Empower yourself. Empower yourself so that you can remember who you are. Remember who you are as a gift. Stop looking outside for happiness. Stop looking to find that this is going to be okay, then finally I'm happy. They're going to do something and then finally I'm happy. You will run into circles and circles and circles. Find a coach. Find a mentor. Somebody that you look to, that is ahead of you, that is living the life that you want to live. And decide that you are going to make a difference in your own life by choosing to be the best part of you that you can, and empower yourself. And in doing that, you will make a difference in your world's happiness. Because as one who is happy, you have a responsibility, if you choose, to shift the consciousness of what is around you. And again, rather than waiting, be the change you want to see in the world. So do what you can to affect that.
Cool. Mariko?
How can you top those two goddesses, right? Beautiful. Oh my gosh, everything I wanted to say, I think, was mentioned by Doria and Suzanne. But what I want to say is to add on, we are that infinite. We are perfect. There is no modification needed, but it is our responsibility to recognize the perfection within each and every one of us and to live from the source, to live in alignment. And therefore, by shifting ourselves to tap into the higher frequency, to create that ripple effect, to raise a global consciousness. And together, we can't do it alone, but together we can rise and make this world a better place.
Awesome, ladies. So we got a little bit of opportunity to get each of your stories, a little bit about your culture, a little bit about your values, and a little bit about the values and deep happiness. But we've only touched the surface. So I'll invite you guys back again for another time together. One last thing I want to do is I want to go around robin and how do people get in touch with you? Just give me your email or your whatever it is that you would like people to connect with you. So Mariko, go first.
Yes, so you can connect with me by a couple of ways. You can email me, mariko@kisekiinstitute.com, and maybe Harrison, you can post that, our emails.
Well, and
or
spell it for them.
Mariko, MARIKO, at Kiseki, KISEKI, institute.com, and Kiseki in Japanese means miracle. So we're all about not just creating individual miracle, but really lifting together the consciousness by you helping yourself, that knowing that you're helping the global consciousness. We have a project right now. We're going to be funding a whole entire village in Kenya through the Unstoppable Foundation, where Cynthia Kersey is the founder. And this is our mission.
She was my first mentor in this business. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. She's amazing. So we'll be doing that. So, you know, we're just, when they come and work, just know that it's not just about ourselves, it's about the whole helping and raising the consciousness of the planet.
Holistic happiness. Okay. Suzanne, how do we get in touch with you?
I just loved all of you people. Okay, so to get a hold of me, if you are wanting mentorship, go to Suzanne, Suzanne, at Warrior Sage, WARRIORSAGE.com. So mentorship with me. There's an application that you'll be sent if you want to go ahead with that. So that is all about empowerment. And at warriorsage.com, go there and we have a free activations in the areas of power, sex, and money. So power activations, abundance
Most important
activations,
things in life.
relationship activations. Go get on there and get. We are doing this in all the communities all over the world. This is a movement. People have to be activated in these areas. It is free. Go there. warriorsage.com.
All right, give
I'm
me
going
respect,
there.
Gloria.
I'm going there.
Going there.
Hey.
And I love, please send me an email. I want to hear all about the miracle, how to say miracle in Japanese, because if you saw my business card, it says expect a miracle.
I will email you.
And I have it in Japanese. I just want to say you can actually find at Money and You, A-N-D, and then you.com. There is a couple of gifts, and one of them is the recovery magical exercises, and it's all about deservability and really clearing multi-generational blocks to wealth and money and deservability. And that also includes physical deservability. You know, what Suzanne has been talking about is so powerful. I mean, deserving of the things that are available in the world for you are so important. And then also people can go to moneyandyou.com and download below. They will see a book. It's a baby business book, but it's very powerful. And it's for the masses. And it's called the Accelerated Business Success Model. And it's how to build literally an empire. And for people that are particularly conscious, I like to teach them that so that they can become wealthy from their beautiful gifts, aside from anybody else that wants it. And so everything for me, info@moneyandyou.com. You can find me there. And we have every Friday, and I want to invite all of you, and I want to go see your programs, but every Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we have a thing called Conversations with Doria and Friends. And we've been doing it now for weeks. It started when the pandemic started. And we started with the Ho'oponopono prayer. And the recovery magical exercises, then the Ho'oponopono prayer. And so once you tap in, and we are launching fridayswithdoria.com, and there people will have all the listing. And it's all my, I bring in my really successful friends. Some of them are very, very extremely successful that share from the heart how they have handled the pandemic, but also how to build your economic engine and tap those sources of funding. We have one called Money Has Not Left the Planet, and it's from my friend that has all these funding processes. So thank you all. And Harrison, you are so magical. You always bring us together with the most beautiful people.
Well, thank you. And I believe that happiness is magic. And so this is the white magic of all things. So we're going to end right here on that. You have three of the most beautiful people on this planet right here. Four actually, but I'm not counting me right now. But three of the most beautiful people on the planet. And I just want to end by everybody throwing kisses to the group. So throw your kisses out to everybody. Happiness is magic. Say it. Happiness is magic.
is
Happiness
magic.
is magic.
Is magic.
Love you guys. Till next time.
Elephant kisses. Teach children this one. Mm.
Kisses, kisses,
Elephant
kisses.
That's it.
My sex organs are in my fingers.
That too, but this is for children.
Oh, for children.
Oh,
Okay. Oh, no. Bye-bye.